Hello, my name is Ramona Nedeva. I'm a third-year student in the English program at the Medical University of Varna. I'm Bulgarian who was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, and I have always wanted to study medicine due to its intriguing complexity and how every disease is similar but different based on the patients. I've spent my whole life translating Bulgarian to English and vice versa, and it is one of my passions to teach my colleagues about our culture, traditions, and history. Speaking of colleagues, I am going to introduce a few to you today. They're from Group 18 and they have brought presentations to spread medical awareness to specific topics. This is Ria from Manchester, UK. She has wanted to become a doctor since she was very little. She's always been super empathetic and has loved helping people when they need it most. She hopes to make people more comfortable in a clinical setting, and her favorite method to do so is by chatting with her patients about their interests. She hopes to become a pediatrician after graduation. Today, she'll be telling us about alimentary prevention on stroke and how we can help lower today's rising prevalence.
Hello, my name is Ria Melachori, and today I'm going to be talking about the alimentary prevention on cardiovascular diseases, which is stroke. It's a group of disorders of the heart, blood vessels, coronary heart disease, cerebrovascular disease, and stroke. According to World Health Organization, cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of death globally. It's the leading cause of death for both men and women, and it takes 17.9 million lives each year. And today I'll just be talking about stroke. There's two types of stroke, ischemic and hemorrhagic. So the ischemic stroke is part of the brain is blocked, and this prevents the brain receiving oxygen and nutrients. And then the hemorrhagic stroke is the blood vessel is leaked and it causes brain to bleed. And here the pressure increases in the brain, and both require medical attention. So the symptoms of stroke involve slurred speech, numbness in the face, arms and legs, partial loss of eyesight, headache, and sometimes loss of balance, so trouble walking. So the traditional risk factors tend to include smoking, alcohol, diet and nutrition, high blood pressure like hypertension, high cholesterol and diabetes. You also have risk-enhancing factors too, such as family history of the early atherosclerotic cardiovascular diseases. So in men, it's over 55 years, and in women, it's over 65 years. There is metabolic syndrome, so you have high blood sugar levels. There's chronic kidney disease, and there's higher risk ethnicity. So studies to show the link between the nutrition and stroke. So there have been many studies over the years that have been done to research to show the risk of certain foods increasing or decreasing risk of developing a stroke. It is seen that there is an overall positive correlation that consuming antioxidants, minerals, potassium, fruits and vegetables have a decreased risk of stroke. And the main foods that I will discuss will be red meat, fats and oils, as well as sodium. So the link between red meat and stroke. So the study conducted by Rutgers Health investigated the link between frequent red meat eaters and the risk of stroke. So there's two massive health surveys which tracked lots of people, thousands of people, and over 20 years of study was followed. The results showed that 1,400 men and 2,600 women had stroke, and men who ate more than 2 servings of red meat had a 28% increased risk, and women who ate more than 2 servings of red meat is around 19% who had a increased risk. So a similar study was also done earlier in Stockholm, Sweden, and what was new in the current study was that frequent poultry eaters had a reduced risk. The fish offered no protection against stroke, and iron and fat in red meat may play a large role. Findings support how to reduce red meat consumption and opt for chicken and fish. So the study involved 11,000 middle-aged people who were analysed. There was no risk factors for stroke, such as diabetes, mellitus or heart disease, and this was followed for 23 years. So the 47% higher risk of ischemic stroke, so compared to people eating a small amount of red meat. So protein consumption is diet questionnaires were completed by US residents aged between 45 to 64, starting from 1987 to 2011. And it's split into 5 groups based on how much protein they consume. The results were around 699 strokes among 11,000 participants, and high processed meats such as bacon and sausage had a 24 increased risk. Eating more egg increased hemorrhagic strokes, and red meat was more correlated to ischemic strokes. So here, this is just a figure which shows a graph to show relative risks of total incident stroke and stroke mortality for one serving per day increase. So the squares basically represent the study-specific relative risk estimates. The horizontal lines represent 95% confidence intervals, and the diamond represents summary relative risks, which estimate with around 95%. So dietary sodium risk and the stroke in Northern Manhattan study. So the American Heart Association, or AMA, has recommended to limit sodium intake to less than 1,500 milligrams per day for ideal cardiovascular health. The participants were from the Northern Manhattan and the mean age was around 69. Sodium intake was assessed with a food frequency questionnaire or baseline and evaluated continuously. And after a mean follow-up of around 10 years, it examined the association between sodium consumption and 235 strokes. Sodium intake was prevalent and was seen as an increased risk of stroke. So the association between dietary fat intake and stroke risk. So this association is still inconclusive, so there is still research being done, but around 73,867 women and 43,269 men were free of cardiovascular disease. For intake was collected by food frequency questionnaires, and the results were 6,189 incident stroke events. High intake of vegetable and polyunsaturated fat was associated with a lower stroke risk. High non-dairy animal fat was also associated with an increased risk, and similar associations for ischemic stroke. Positive association found of non-dairy animal fat for hemorrhagic stroke, and the conclusion was that higher intake of vegetable fats, polyunsaturated fats, and vegetable oil reduced risk of stroke. So where is stroke prevalent? So the highest risk of stroke was mainly found in East Asia, Central Asia, and Eastern Europe. So Kiribati and Mongolia had the highest prevalence of stroke, so around 233.28 and 216.30 respectively. And the lowest risk was seen in sub-Saharan Africa. So why is stroke prevalent in Mongolia? Well, firstly, it's due to the economic differences. So they also do have a high salt intake, around 10.5 grams, and they also have excessive amount of salt, sweets, and alcohol. Low diet of fruit and vegetables. They also have poor recognition of blood pressure, environmental factors such as air pollution and extreme weather conditions. And in Mongolia, the main dish is mutton, which is like a type of lamb. And air pollution hardens arteries in the brain, therefore blood starts to get thicker and increases the blood pressure. And acute effects tend to involve ruptured plaque which is built in our arteries. And extreme heat increases blood pressure and therefore increases our blood coagulability. So on the left, you can see air pollution in Mongolia, and on the right, this is just the typical Mongolian food that they eat on a day-to-day basis. So social and economic factors of stroke in Mongolia. So burden of stroke has increased due to aging population and increasing sizes, especially in the middle and low income countries. Poor management of modifiable risk factors, and there's also educational deficit, inadequate access to healthcare, and it's also very important to understand that these trends are really vital because we can then reduce the risk through allocation and sending resources. And here is just a couple of graphs to show the incidence, prevalence, mortality, and disability adjusted life years lost from 1990 to 2017 in different regions. So the prevention and prophylaxis of stroke, what should people do if they have suffered a stroke? So I think the first one is very obvious, choosing healthy meals and snacks, but also eat fresh fruits and vegetables, so check the date on when they expire. Eat foods with a low unsaturated fat, trans fat, and cholesterol. Eat food with high fiber, such as beans and dried fruit, and limit sodium in diet. Increase physical activity, so maybe just going on a walk or taking a jog 2 times a day every week. Limit alcohol. So for men, maybe drink 2 drinks per day, and for women, only have 1 a day. And also just check your blood pressure regularly. So why does healthy diet reduce stroke risk? So it's said that fruits and vegetables contain a variety of vitamins, minerals, and fibre. For example, vitamin A and vitamin C, as well as vitamin E, which helps to prevent artery damage. Fibre helps to lower blood sugar levels and relieve constipation and manages your weight. Whole grains are a good source of vitamin B, and omega-3 and 6 help to keep artery walls really healthy, as well as regulate blood clotting and lower blood pressure. So our source is mainly, the sources found really for this is mainly fish, nuts and seeds. And small amounts of unsaturated fats can help prevent blocked arteries and blood clots.